Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Demetrius, one of the astrologers. Our portrait this week is Will Smith, born September 25th, 1968, 9:47 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's going to be a very interesting chart. Before I get started, just to remind you, please come to Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube and subscribe. Push that little button so you'll be reminded, because we do our forecast for the coming week on Fridays. We do these portraits every Tuesday. It's a big help to us. Thank you. Will is born with the sun at 3 degrees Libra. Interestingly, he's born with the sun very close to his south node, which is sometimes seen as a difficult position, but it also means that it's a person who brings a lot of skills in from a previous lifetime. They're a real resource. He's born with Gemini Rising, and he's born with the moon in Scorpio. Now, this fits perfectly with our portraits of actors that do action roles, our series on that, because what we look for the Mercury-ruled signs, Gemini and Virgo, and we look for the Mars-ruled signs, Scorpio and Aries. So he's got Gemini Rising, and he's got a Scorpio moon. And then just to make it really entertaining, almost everything in this chart is below the horizon, which means this is a person with a great deal of depth, a very active personal life. The one place where he kind of sticks out into the world above the horizon is the Saturn, and it's in Aries. So it's in Aries, so it's about achievement. What's funny, this chart is very similar in some ways to Halle Berry, who I just had mentioned in another portrait, because same thing, one planet above the horizon, Saturn. And you see this oftentimes in very successful actors. There's a desire to achieve, and it comes out through that. It's in Aries about the personality, the individual, that special person. Now, a sun is in the 5th house, the house of creativity. It's there also with Mercury and Venus. Now, Mercury and Venus are conjunct at 28 degrees and 29 degrees Libra. It's also, Pallas Athena is at 28 degrees. So it's this tight cluster of creativity in Libra. Now, Venus is in rulership, which means it's going to make him very charming, very loving, very attractive. Remember, he actually started his career as a rapper, as a young man, very young man in Philadelphia. It was the Fresh Prince and who was it, Lonnie?
Jazzy Jeff.
Jazzy Jeff. And that's how he started off. And then he went from there to Hollywood to a series where he played the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. What's funny is he said when he got there, no one had ever asked him if he knew how to act. So, how much charm and likability do you have to find yourself in that situation? The Gemini Rising really describes the rapper. Rapping is all about the talk. And Gemini Rising is really strong there. The 7 degrees Gemini Rising is trined almost exactly by the Sun and the South Node in Libra, 3 degrees to 9 degrees. It splits that. So this ability for gab, this ability to speak, is some type of reincarnational skill that he has. He is African American, and the concept of rap actually comes from Africa. It's a tradition that comes down, that the speaking of long histories is part of that tradition. You wonder if in previous lifetimes he was someone who was part of that tradition, of the historian, of the story or teller of stories, which is what he's still doing. He's still a storyteller. That's what actors are and producers are. They're storytellers. So you have this great quality in there, this wonderful creativity. What's interesting is, let's look at the stuff that relates to action stars, because we could go on for an hour about Will Smith. He's a fascinating person. The Gemini Rising shows a real quickness of mind, so a willingness to really jump into stuff. He has Mars in Virgo. You find this in a lot of these action roles, which is funny. It's the ability to physically move very precisely and take instructions, which with these types of roles, you have to be able to do. This is not, it's not a person walking on a stage pontificating. This is closely choreographed, and his Mars and Virgo is there. He also has Jupiter, Pluto, and Uranus all in Virgo. So there's a certain excitement and athletic skill that comes through with that at the same time. And it's an interesting tradition, or generation, I should say. The other thing that's going on, and this is really surprising because it's not up on the surface, is you see the moon in Scorpio. And there's actually, the moon is conjunct Neptune. So the ability to kind of create illusion or be able to have a very good imagination. This is someone who has a very good imagination with the moon conjunct Neptune and Scorpio. Ceres is also their ability to manage people during a team. Juno is there. He really kind of partners with people well. It's in the 6th house, the house of your work. Mars and Moon in Scorpio. It's the fall position. It's the behind the scenes position. He likes being behind the scenes. He likes being on a set where he can see all the stuff that's going on to create the illusion and then Neptune. What's interesting, he's probably tremendously good to, but also tremendously perceptive about the people that he works with. All the people, the cameramen, the sound men, the makeup people behind the scenes, he gets them. He's probably very nurturing to them with that moon and Scorpio in the 6th house. But he's also very perceptive. He'll recognize when they're having an issue or what their agenda is. He'll recognize that, the moon in Scorpio is a deep position, but it's a little bit paranoid. It's a little bit suspicious, because Scorpio is all about managing, shared resources. And so it's very strategic in its thinking. People think of Sagittarius as being the strategic sign, but Sagittarius is strategic externally. Scorpio is more so about the infighting. It understands, where blood might be drawn. And that's one of the reasons why this works so well for him. And when it gets to his work, he understands, hey, we could get hurt doing this. So that Mars in Virgo, Moon in Scorpio, these are both, what you'd call pawn positions. Will, we need to go out there and do that. Okay. And the Gemini Rising has said, and cracks a joke on the way. It's like, it makes him a lot of fun to work with. It's not surprising he's been cast in so many things because he's enjoyable to work with. He's fun. Another thing that's interesting too is that he has the Darkmoon Lilith and Selena at the rising, which is funny because you don't usually see them that close together, but now and then it shows up. The Darkmoon Lilith means that kind of at the surface he has a strong kind of animal energy. But the Selena rising means that he just glows around people. You get around people of Selena rising are just lovely to be around. It's like they're gracious when they arrive on the scene. They show up and everyone goes, oh, look who's here. And so he has both those qualities there, the Darkmoon Lilith and Selena. These are lunar points, but they're pretty powerful and they very much affect how we feel things. Lunar points like the nodes, and Selena and the Black Moon Lilith, they're lunar points. Remember, the moon is the celestial body closest to us. It's like our mother in many ways. It's that person around us who's watching out for us all the time. It's very intimate, so it's much more powerful than people realize. Well, women probably realize it more than men. Men are, often oblivious to how much the women around them actually do. So you combine these different things together, this moon in Scorpio, all this cluster of planets in Libra, the Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, Uranus, and Virgo. It's all clustered together. It's very concentrated. It's all in a very tight bundle. And then it comes out through what's called the handle of the bucket. This is what's called a classic bucket chart. Everything is clustered together. You have the Mars in Virgo, Jupiter in Virgo, Pluto, Uranus. Then you have all those planets in Libra, the Sun, Mercury, Venus. And then you have the Moon and Neptune all in Scorpio. And you have all these asteroids around them. It's very tight. And then on the far side, you have one planet, right? You have one planet, Saturn. It's up in the 11th house. And it's conjunct the part of fortune, his link to money, in the 11th house and the North Node, which means it's where he gets his growth. So when he achieves, it fulfills him and it brings him money, which has worked out very well for him, don't you think? I mean, it's worked really well for him. But the Saturn in Aries retrograde in the 12th house is a very interesting position. It's the fall position. In other words, the fall position is the opposite position to the exaltation position for the planet. Saturn is exalted in Libra. The fall position is Aries. It is once again a tremendously introvert position. It's a position that's all about, the siblings that stayed home on the farm, their best friend. Their best friend is that fall position. It's the one who's privy to all this information and yet doesn't have as much leverage as they might want to have. And that Saturn in Aries is that position. It's all about, you recognize how you're achieving, and at the other hand, you understand the other side of it. What's it costing? What do I have to do? How far do I have to bend over backwards in situations? And it's retrograde. Many times people who have Saturn retrograde highly elevated in the chart, it means that their father was not present. What it does do, it tends to make them create their own sense of fatherhood within them. And he's been an exemplary father, and he's also been, played the role of the father so successfully. There's the movie come out right now is King Richard, which is about the father of Serena and Venus Williams and how he helped them succeed. And he's played a number of roles like this, of the difficulty of being a father in certain roles and the willingness to fight for that. Boy, is that Saturn in Aries retrograde up in the 11th house. And all that stuff vents out through there. It's very, very powerful. Like I said, we could go on for an hour about Will Smith's chart. It's a fascinating chart. There are many reasons why he's been successful. But what we're talking about here is the action stuff. So it's a Gemini rising, Mars in Virgo, Moon in Scorpio. That's why he likes to get into it. That's why he likes to get into it and play the game. Even if it's not really hurting anybody, play the game doing it. He likes the make believe. The Moon conjunct Neptune. He likes to make believe in his work. So that's Will Smith, part of the action series. Come see us every Tuesday when we do our portraits. Hopefully you learn a lot from them. Come see us every Fridays when we do our forecast for the coming week. You can find them both at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. You can also find the calendars and the day planners for Planetary Calendar at planetarycalendar.com. Until next time, be well.